And in a minute, I'll welcome you here tonight. I just didn't want anybody singing something out of key or something, doing a recording. So 1 minute and then we'll start. Okay, now it's official. Good evening. Welcome to the October 3rd, 2023 council meeting for the Township of Nipissing. Tonight's agenda contains a delegation and discussion of council about an issue that is of concern to a number of residents and members of the public and council indeed. Council respects everyone's opinions on this matter and will review information provided. We remind everyone in attendance of the rules of the procedural bylaw 2023-34 and ask that only those listed on the agenda to provide a delegation to council speak on the matter. We're all here to learn and work together for the best interests of the Township of Nipissing as a whole. We expect respect and it will be reciprocated. So to begin the agenda, because our agenda remains the same for all meetings. So first of all, I'll ask council if there's any disclosure of pecuniary interest. None. Seeing none, we'll go to number 2 on the agenda, which is committee reports. And I'll start with Councillor Yem.
I don't have one tonight.
Okay, thank you. We'll go next to Councillor Foote.
Okay, we had a rec committee last night. It was a pretty good meeting. Bottle drive update. We did bottle drive yesterday for 2 weeks. Collected $308.50 for the 2 weeks. That was partly because it was a shortened week and we shortened it up from last month. We did have the trunk sale. There was approximately 16 vendors at the trunk sale, and we have an inquiry regarding doing it again, possibly in the spring. So when it was brought up, and they'd like to see it moved more towards the middle of the, the fields to give the vendors a little more space. So as long as the fields are okay, then we'll look at moving it more into the middle. Teen dance is coming October 14th. We're hoping to see more attendance. The last teen dance, we had 35 youth. We're thinking with the kids in school and a little more chatter between them, we should get a few more students. So I think that'll be fun. I think it'll be good for them. We got lots of volunteers. There's lots of people here. We'll have the water and the goods for them and the candies for them and everything else. So that'll all still be present. On the agenda after that, next is Halloween. So volunteers are definitely welcome at Halloween. We're going to do the same as we did in previous years where we run both fire halls. So both fire halls will decorate them and invite the kids. The nice part about this year is Scotiabank has donated 120 backpacks, sort of like the ones that hang over your back. So instead of us just handing candy out to the kids, we're going to do up backpacks for them and we're going to fill the bags up for them. So we have 120 of those, and then we have another smaller bags for the kids, for the younger kids that we can fill up for them if we run out. We are going to also do a coloring contest. So we'll do a coloring contest, hand it out to the kids, get it out to the school in the next week or so. Also put it on the webpage so that if people can't get to the school, they're not able to get it, they can print it off and still submit it. So when they pick up their candy, submit your coloring contest to us and we'll have some fun. And then we will judge it at the council meeting and have some fun with it like we did with the gingerbread houses. So I think it'll be a little bit of fun. After that, we have chili cook-off coming up. We're still working on getting people involved with it and municipalities involved. We had put it out to the municipalities around us, all around us, and their different groups, the fire departments and everything else, to say who has the best chili in the area. So it's going to be a blind cook-off. Nobody will have any idea who cooked what. And if you did your chili, you're not welcome to stand near your chili pot. So come heat it up and then go and have some fun and go wander with people or go away kind of thing. The nice part about it is I was at the Voodoo game on Saturday, and the Voodoos are generously going to come out and help us with our chili cook-off. So the boys are going to come hang out with us for the night from 4 to 7. They may not serve, but they're going to have some fun. So they've been really good and they're willing to get into the community. So that'll be a little bit of fun. We had the Commanda Community Center, so coming up in Commanda, November 26th is the bazaar and bake sale for them. Followed by December 10th, they're gonna have a children's park party and community dinner. So I think it'll be really great for the community. That's still a work in progress. They're still putting it together. But they asked us to they reminded us the first Saturday of every month is the jam and dance. So I think a little bit of fun going out and saying hi to them and doing that. Our next meeting, we are going to discuss 2024 event schedule. So I've asked everybody on the committee to bring forward what they'd like to see in 2024, what they would like to take care of, what they're going to head up and budget they're looking for and how we're going to do it. So a little bit of planning, trying to get us ready for 2024. And our next meeting is November 6th.
Any questions for Councillor Foote? Seeing none, I'll move on to Councillor Kirby.
All right, well, I don't have any committee reports as such, but we had the Lisa Laflamme dinner and it went off at a full house. So it was a sold out. We actually added an extra table. And then we have museum board meeting tomorrow and library board meeting on the 19th. We'll get the full rundown on how that worked out with that.
Good, thank you.
That's all I have.
So if there are no questions, Councillor Butler.
Nothing this time.
Okay, I have two. First of all, East Home from September 20th, their monthly meeting, funding announcements. CSS, so community service, we had one-time funding of $25,000 for the down payment on a new van. And that's a van they use to take people to appointments, doctor's appointments, even shopping if necessary, and also a 3% increase in base funding. Systems and programs, East Home continues scheduling software continues to be installed. Cameras have been sourced and configuration work underway, and there's a policy under development. Recruiting with the new Long-Term Homes Act, recruitment strategies continue in order to hit hours of care, which is 3 hours and 42 minutes per individual by March 2024. The community support services, there's seniors lunch in Berks Falls and Emsdale. Lease renewal for office space, and Nipissing has Stay in Your Feet program beginning this Thursday, and Commanda has one beginning on Friday through CSS. Building, East Home building itself, there's been new floor installation. Insurance work is continuing on the loading dock and main fire panel as the insurance is due in November, and external concrete steps repaired. The big construction project, the 5.2 million. Final building meeting is this Thursday. We're continuing network navigation, 2 change orders for lights and AC, and wall repair to be completed. And finally, we were inspected by long-term care August 14th to 18th. And there's no report yet, but the next board meeting is October 25th. And the second thing, of late, anybody that does live on Lake Nipissing has found that the lake is dropping about 10 centimeters. So I got an update on the Sturgeon Nipissing French River Water Advisory Board as of today. The average level on Lake Nipissing was measured at 195.70 meters above sea level yesterday. Residents on Lake Nipissing will notice that the lake is down approximately 10 centimeters from the summer norm. Last week, there was virtually no rain, hence the lake drop. At this time, and you'll have to get the last line, at this time, there's a 25 to 30 millimeter precipitation forecast for Thursday through Sunday, and then potentially another 30 to 40 millimeters Sunday through Monday. They didn't say get your Thanksgiving plans indoors. However, there's still a high degree of uncertainty. We can expect inflows to pick up into Lake Nipissing, but the official drawdown will begin after Thanksgiving, which represents one of the last weekends of boating on the lake. Flows will be increased on the French to minimize any increase in Nipissing levels as the drawdown begins. And this recent lake lowering was due to the weather and not any drawdown procedures. So they don't want anybody to think that they jumped the gun and started the drawdown. So if there are no other committee sponsorships, I'll go to number 3 on your agenda. And it's Save the Rock Citizens Group. David Cernanak is the spokesperson. So welcome David to come up to the podium.
Time.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so greetings, Mr. Mayor, council, and staff, and especially like to thank everyone who's come here in person. It's really great to see, and of course, all the people watching at home. We really appreciate the support and the interest in making Nipissing the way life should be, right? So, residents and visitors of all walks of life have been freely using the location for generations. Families have grown up together coming here. We have documented frequent, unhindered use for at least well over 50 years, and it's probably much longer. People have cherished the area for the vistas and sunsets, the clean swimming, the launch area for canoes and kayaks to explore the many Crownland islands close by, not to mention the multitude of ice fishers. Many of us consider this section of shoreline a sacred area. We all agree it must be conserved. The township has taken some action conferring with First Nation reserves on the other side of the lake, but we all sincerely hope that you also listen to the Indigenous voices that reside right here in our community as part of your inquiry. Voices that were unable to be heard tonight because of the swiftness of the meeting being called. Now, council's position seems that since no one is trying to purchase the shoreline right now, that there's no merit in discussing conserving the area. But due to previous actions that almost saw the shoreline sold off, we think rather it's the perfect time. Our strategic plan states we will conserve unique landforms, historical and cultural features. Also, the township will increase awareness and educate the public about the values and benefits of protecting and promoting natural heritage features, and those features shall be protected over the long term. Our official plan states, this plan recognizes the importance of cultural heritage landscapes. And one goal of the plan is to preserve and protect important natural features. When we're discussing shoreline, there is no obligation whatsoever for the township to sell off shoreline. From our official plan, it states, in addressing problems resulting from encroachments, the township will consider selling the shore to abutting property owners. Exceptions are where natural heritage features are present and the township may not consider the sale. The township will not sell allowances where there is any possibility that there is a potential future public use for the lands. Applications to purchase shore road allowance, which is adjacent to areas where the public has or could have access to water, may not be considered for sale. So our provincial guidance to us states that your municipality's official plan provides the overall direction and guidance for planning in your community. Once approved, you and the rest of council, excuse me, and municipal staff must follow the plan. With all available evidence and testimony, we're asking the township to immediately, at least in principle, declare all municipally held lands in that area a cultural heritage landscape and to conserve it for future generations. This can be done very easily with a loan by the township using existing legislation and bylaws. All the details can be figured out. We've got volunteers, we can do all sorts of things. Anything is possible. That's number one. A lot of public may not know that all land use planning in the province is led by provincial policy. The province's natural heritage, cultural heritage, and water resources are a key provincial interest. This is from provincial legislation. Significant cultural heritage landscapes shall be conserved. Taking action to conserve lands should take precedence over short-term considerations. As part of our, what I think you guys wanted to discuss, excuse me, the formality, the access to the shoreline, we obviously have had some issues there. Nobody wants to trespass on private property, period. That's not what anyone wants at all. For decades, people have had access to the shoreline and they were not trespassing. There was, at the very least, implied and in multiple cases, explicit consent. The bylaw 2021-57 appears more geared for the potential hazards and liability of motor vehicle traffic. It is worth noting that the township has cited this bylaw as the reason to dismantle part of the footpath when up to approximately 100 foot of the same road allowance was used as a multiple car and boat parking lot for months by private interests using access through private property unavailable to the general public. So the municipality used that bylaw to remove or cause to have removed the that portion of the footpath. We could actually argue through provincial legislation that rather the township should be looking for solutions to enhance our access. From the official plan, public works shall preserve and enhance those natural resources. From provincial legislation, healthy active communities should be promoted by planning and providing for a full range excuse me, of publicly accessible natural settings for recreation, including parklands, public spaces, open space areas, trails, water-based resources, and public access to shorelines. Again, provincial legislation. The connectivity of natural features in an area should be maintained or improved, recognizing linkages between and among natural heritage features and areas and surface water features. Now, so people understand what they're saying by linkage, that would be somebody can take their kayak. We have a one of the municipality's assets is a very large parking lot there. You can take your kayak, walk down the footpath, put in at all of a sudden in Crown land at the water and paddle out to the Crown land. That's a linkage, right? Everything, we're trying to maximize everything that we have to make an experience for the public. You know, what we want for our recreation, well-being, and all that. So the last item, the boundary dispute, again, this is definitely beyond the scope of any layperson, and nobody has been pretending to know any more about it than we have. But there are some interesting discrepancies. I understand from the agenda package that council is adopting a peer review. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but what I hope, you know, on behalf of everyone, that it would include as a peer review, Rick Miller of Tulloch, North Bay, who did the plan adjacent on the Birch Grove Shore Road allowance the year prior, and was used to sell off the shoreline this very year in the spring. The plan from 1994 across the bay, that surveyor is no longer with us, may he rest in peace. That corporation is now E.J. Williams Surveying of Huntsville, who has bought that surveying operation. And Mr. Veldblum also mentioned that in discussing that the survey and how it was done, that the Ministry of Natural Resources guidelines were followed. So to further that, we would request as part of this peer review of the Goodridge survey that the MNR be consulted as an adjacent landowner as allowed for in MNR policy PL 4.11.07, where they will use their expertise, they will comment, they will act, and of course they are adjacent landowners everywhere in the lake. We have how many authorities that are on the shores of Lake Nipissing? Provincial government, federal government, conservation authority, 2 First Nations, and how many municipalities? The elevation used for surveys on shoreline should not be something that is just arbitrarily decided. If the Goodridge survey is right, which it may be, I have no way of knowing. If the Goodridge survey is right, that has wide-ranging consequences for all of these authorities on the lake. And so we ask that the MNR be involved in that process as is allowed in their legislation. So other than that, I believe that is everything for me.
I thank you very much. I believe there was some information handed out that I will,
It was in the agenda package.
okay, that I will read out and we have indeed taken notes, and so items of concern provided regarding unopened shore road allowance in front of broken lot 11, concession 19, locally referred to as the Rock. Point out the Rock, by township understanding, is the 66 feet of unopened municipally owned shore road allowance in front of part broken lot 11, concession 19. The lot of record located at part broken lot 11, concession 19 is privately owned, okay? And it has been privately owned since 1919. Until recently, when ownership changed and the new owners enforced their right to their privately owned lot. Council received an application to stop up, close, and purchase the unopened shore road allowance on this parcel in July of 2022. It is the township's normally followed procedure to support these applications and to sell the shore road allowance to the adjacent owners. This proposal to council included a section of land intended to swap, as this was not something council would consider under the regular procedures. The SRA support in principle was rescinded on January 3rd, 2023 by resolution 2023-02. At this time, there are no submitted applications to stop up, close, and purchase the unopened shore road allowance at this site. So that is, there is no submitted applications to close and purchase the road allowance, which is 66 feet in front of this private lot. Okay, there are no applications. Now, as Mr. Cernanak pointed out, the unopened road allowance, okay, this is a road allowance between concessions 18 and 19 leading to water, is protected from sale or closure under the Township of Nipissing's official plan. So the road allowance leading to water is protected and will not be sold, as you pointed out, in the official plan. This unopened road allowance will remain in the possession of the Township of Nipissing, and following past practices of the township will not be opened or altered in any way. So an altering of a road allowance without the authority of council is not permitted. And this included removal of vegetation, installation of structures, and the placement of fill material of any kind. So let me move on. In previous correspondence from Save the Rock Group, it was requested the township investigate the heritage designation of the Shore Road allowance. So you spoke of, it's a heritage site. Township staff reached out to Ontario Heritage Trust in a letter dated July 12th, 2023. They didn't even bother responding. Okay. Next, it was claimed that this was an Indigenous site. So we drove to Garden Village, which is one of our two Indigenous groups on this lake. There are only two that are recognized, okay? And that is Nipissing First Nations, and the other is Doquis. So an inquiry into Indigenous land rights in the Shore Road allowance was raised. The Township of Nipissing is located within the Robinson Huron Treaty Lands. Consultations with Nipissing First Nations and Doquis First Nations were initiated. Responses have been received indicating no evident Indigenous significance of the area, but suggesting a stage 2 archaeological assessment be completed if future consideration of sale of the road allowance. This requirement would be added to any future application to purchase the Shore Road allowance described. Now, as Mr. Cernanak pointed out, none of us are surveyors. None of us are lawyers. So detailed information regarding the apparent disconnect of information provided in surveys and sketches of the Shore Road allowance have been received by advice provided by Velblum Russell Christie LLP. From a letter dated September 13th, Ed Velblum, sorry, Ed, the request in connection with the conduct of a now canceled application to purchase a Shore Road allowance. The applicant's surveyor produced a number of surveys and later deposited a reference plan. Although there is no current application to purchase the SRA, a group of residents have questioned the accuracy of the depiction of the SRA on those surveys and Plan 42R21838, the Goodrich plans. It has requested Township Council to consider initiating a process to challenge the depiction of the SRA through an application under the Boundaries Act. So after extensive discussion with our legal counsel, he has suggested that there's no basis to go to the Boundaries Act or to question the information at this time. He points out that the last boundaries issue we had in Nipissing was started in 1996 and completed in 2015. It took 19 years, and thankfully, the federal government paid for that. Otherwise, Nipissing Township would have been on the hook for almost $100,000. So choosing to dispute this survey and then taking it one step further to the Boundary Act could open the township, you, the taxpayers, to a substantial legal bill. I want to point out that $30,000 is 1% on your taxes. So this 66 feet, if we go through it, could be $100,000 on all 1,769 people in the township, okay? So that's why what we have next on the agenda is, and as again, Mr. Cernan pointed out, we have authorized the procurement of a peer review of the survey work. And to do that, again, it's a resurvey, which again, whether it's Rick Miller or whoever you suggested, it would go out, but again, that's the first 10 to 20,000. That again, so that is 1/3%. And if you don't like what they say, as you don't seem to appreciate the Goodrich plan, then the next one is the Boundaries Act, which opens a huge cost to all the taxpayers of the township. Well, I have stated that that road allowance will never be sold, okay? And that is the road allowance to the lake. But the 66 feet, that's on abutting private property, but there is no sale. No one's asked to buy it at this time. And so I'm going to read this resolution, and it will go to council, and they will decide. First of all, I'll ask for a mover and a seconder, because any council petition has to have a mover and a seconder. And then I will open council, ask them if they want to proceed with another survey. And it will go to a vote, and that will answer your question, read the survey. We've already discussed our Aboriginal and Indigenous. We've talked to the heritage group. And we have all had a multitude, and I thank you all for the emails, texts, whatever that we've all got, we've all shared, we've all read, and we've all discussed. So I'm going to ask, and this is, again, Mr. Cernan pointed out, number 4, review ongoing concern to unopened road allowance, a resolution authorize the procurement of a peer review, which is a resurvey. And I'll go around the table. First of all, I need a mover and a seconder before it can even be discussed. So Councillor Yam and Councillor Foote. So it's number R 2023-186. Moved by Councillor Yam, seconded by Councillor Foote, that the council authorizes the procurement of a peer review of the survey work of the Shore Road allowance in front of Part Broken Lot 11, Concession 19, for the purpose of confirming the locations. All costs for these inquiries to be included in the 2024 budget and payments supplied by taxation. So to council now, I'll say any comment or question. Comment? Everybody is willing to put this to a vote then? No. Okay, so I'll read it again. Council authorizes the procurement of a peer review of the survey work of the shore road allowance in front of part broken lot 11, concession 19, for the purpose of confirming the location. All costs for these inquiries to be included in the 2024 budget and payments supplied by taxation. Now I ask the question, for procurement of this, against. It is carried. It's defeated, pardon me, that we will not, this council will not ask for a peer review of the survey work of the shore road allowance in front of part broken lot 11, concession 19. Mr. Cernak, I'm sure this isn't the answer that you were looking forward to, but right now, because there is no question, nobody wanting to buy that, council doesn't see the point of spending taxpayers' money for something that may never happen. And should that happen, should there be a purchase in the future, I am sure we would look at it again and look at whether a survey at the cost of the person trying to buy it would be in order. But tonight we've decided it is not in order. We will not procure it, and we will move on with regular business. Thank you, sir.
So then the shoreline, like you're saying that the road allowance going to the water will never be sold.
Will never be sold
Why not say that about the shore road? The shoreline?
because that is not a shore road allowance leading to water.
It's,
No, so-
but
It is a road allowance.
Yeah, but the shore road, in our official plan states that if there's any potential public use. I'm just curious why we're leaving it open to let's just wait and see if somebody tries to buy it.
We're leaving it open because if you remember what I read earlier, it has been past procedure that we sell these parts because it's 66 feet in front of somebody's 200-foot lot.
So past procedure trumps official plan.
That's not trumping official plan. To get into a discussion about official plan, that is not part of the official plan. The official plan says road allowance, not shore road allowance, but a road allowance leading to water. And that is what the road allowance between concession 18 and 19. The road allowance in front of that particular place is a shore road allowance, and traditionally we have sold that, and as of yet, we have not.
But traditionally, that's what I'm getting curious, like I'm kind of trying hard to understand, because tradition is not, the council doesn't operate on tradition. It
Okay, in the
operates by
official
law.
plan,
It's in our procedures for shore road closure,
okay, it's in the procedures for shore road closures.
that it will be considered, all shore road allowances will be considered for sale by council. That's in our sale of land bylaws.
Except if there's potential for public use. Correct. And decades of confirmed public use. Mr. Mayor, you told me months ago, you've been going there for 25 years.
I beg your pardon?
You told me.
I
months
did
ago.
not.
Yeah, you did.
I did not. I hadn't heard of it before I became mayor. I had never heard of The Rock before I became mayor. I don't know where you
Okay,
got that.
anyway, you came up to me at the all candidates meeting and told me you knew the place, you were going, anyway, okay, so you weren't. Other people have been going there for decades.
Okay,
So,
we're not going to have this debate because in the procedural bylaw, you made your presentation, okay? And we appreciate that, and council has listened. It's just not myself. Council has listened, and at this time, they are not willing to do that. And that's, for tonight, that's the end.
we need to, turn it into a big thing. I'm just looking at the laws.
It is a very big thing, and we appreciate people coming and the interest that they've shown. But our procedure is what it is, and we voted unanimously. Our lawyer has sat in and listened and hasn't told me to change what I said or anything like that. So again, until there is an application, we have voted on it, and we will agree with it when we accept the procedural bylaw at the end of the year. And confirming bylaw, and you're willing to stay for the rest of this? And, or you can choose to leave. I will call a 2-minute recess if you care to stay for the rest of the council meeting. And if not, I'll thank you very much for coming, and I thank you for your input.
Okay, well, thanks for listening. I appreciate it.
I appreciate all the time you've taken.
Thank you.
Yep. Probably another flat tire tonight.
Yeah.
That's why I
Yeah.
drive my Ford Piper truck.
You know, I should have brought the beef turkey card.
Should have brought the beater.
Yeah. You want to let it? That'd be a good.
Yeah.
One week. See, like another thing that's just like jump in, but see, the ministry approved official plan identifies all the areas of scientific interest on it. And in that area, there is no like cultural interest. But, you know, I think it's heritage.
Well, we'll bring that up.
Yeah, but yeah,
If it ever gets pursued.
yeah, yeah.
I think you can let it go. Don?
You let them know.
Okay, Ed?
Yes,
Ed, we'll probably get you to chat or debrief staff.
yes.
I'll be at Argyle School at a soccer tournament, but I'm sure staff will like to hear anything you have to say.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Would that be tomorrow at some time tomorrow or today?
Probably tomorrow at your leisure, so be in touch.
Okay, yeah, no problem.
Thank you, Ed.
No, thank you very much. Have a good night and the rest of the meeting.
Okay, good night. Certainly know how to clear a room.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, because the more I think about it, we have a sensitive schedule. Yeah. Yeah,
That would have been good to know going in.
yeah, I should know. It just
Okay.
kind of occurred to me then.
Okay, we've got about 30 seconds and then we'll move on. So we'll move on to minutes of the meeting held September 16th. I need a mover and a seconder, Councillor Kirky and Councillor Butler. Number R 2023-187, moved by Councillor Kirky, seconded by Councillor Butler, that the minutes of the council meeting held September 19th, 2023 be adopted as published. All in favor? Carried. Number 7. To authorize the approval and signing of an updated memorandum of understanding with the South Shore Rescue Snowmobile Club, excuse me. That's all in your package. I know you've read it umpteen times. Are there any questions? Because John Paul worked with them on this. So if there's any questions, direct them to him. Go ahead.
How long is this memorandum of agreement for?
So 3 months, this is the same, or 3 years?
3 years. It's
Yeah.
on the
3 years.
memorandum of understanding runs, item number one, October 6th, 2023 to October 6th, 2026.
Okay. Oh, I see, okay. Yes,
It's very faint, I apologize.
Yeah,
no problem.
It's mostly the
their
same.
contract is faint.
Yeah.
Mostly, just a couple little changes up on Kings Road, a little change on Highway 654, jog. So, mostly the same.
Yeah.
So will they be installing that fence again?
Yes.
Okay,
Cemetery.
in front of the cemetery until we can afford to do better?
2 years.
To get a fence.
2 years.
In the plan for 2 years.
Okay,
They also provide us with a certificate of insurance each year for all of the trails running through our road allowances.
okay, so any comments or questions? And I'll ask for a mover and a seconder. Councillor Butler and Councillor Yim. So it's number 2023-188, moved by Councillor Butler, seconded by Councillor Yim, that we authorize the signing of a memorandum of understanding with the South Shore Rescue Snowmobile Club for use of municipal road allowances. Appendix A, snowmobile trails on township roads and road allowances. And Appendix B, map detailing trails on township roads and road allowances. If there are no comments or questions, all in favor? Carried. Okay, number 8 is a resolution, and I apologize because this is an easy one. It's the next one that's a long one, okay? And this is requesting reconsideration of Central Ambulance Communications Center boundaries between Nipissing and Perry Sound. The provincial government, I'm sure you've read, have pointed out that we're going to go from North Bay Dispatch to Perry Sound Dispatch. And I think Will's pointed out, this is going to cost, we're going to have to purchase different equipment.
Yep, and we still have to investigate a new dispatch center. We're not guaranteed to go to Perry Sound.
And as they pointed out in here, please let us know who your dispatch center is. So what we're asking is this, none of this was budgeted. So no money for new equipment as far as reaching the people, 911, anything like that. So we're asking that they will extend the guidelines so we can research this. Ideally, we'd like to stay with North Bay, but it doesn't look like the provincial government's going to let us.
Doesn't look like it, no,
No, so
no.
that was too handy. So
Yeah,
anyway, this is strictly the letter here to say, please delay this so we can try to find a dispatcher and make the necessary changes. If not, the end of December,
December 31st.
yeah, we'll be out of Perry Sound. So, yes,
Am I correct in thinking that we will automatically go to Perry Sound
No.
Dispatch? We will quite possibly be without a 911 dispatch at December 31st.
No, I can't see that North Bay will allow that.
But we have to have some sort of a guarantee in place because
Correct.
we have,
We currently have an agreement with North Bay that ends December 31st, so we would have looked at renewing. So we'd have a contract in place with them until then, which we would have been investigating before then anyway, so we'll continue that process, but this was the time frame on
What the major time crunch is OPP dispatch that does 911 requires 60 days notice to transfer from one dispatch to another.
so we would have to put the checks and balances in place
This
today.
month.
Yeah,
before November 1st.
Correct.
And that
Anybody talk
includes
to Vic
purchase.
Fidelli?
He's copied on the letter.
Good,
Yes, sir.
We're having a chat again, hopefully Sunday afternoon.
okay.
He's pretty hard to get a hold of these days. He's been out of the country a lot.
Ideally, we'd love just to stay where we are, but
Well, cost wise alone,
just the ease and the service that we get. So the new system is we'll have to go over, rely on phone lines and internet. And right now we have a direct site to the dispatch. So we just go over the airway.
That would also put an additional requirement on our fire department to ensure that we had someone to dispatch for every incident.
Possibly, depends on which dispatch center we go with and what level of service. Plus, anywhere from 12 to 14,000 in equipment, monthly fees.
Is that Powassan and Calendar as well?
Powassan, Calendar, Restool, Argyle, South River, Sunridge.
so that's pretty much our whole mutual aid group.
The provincial government, they've gone to a new system, so they're realigning boundaries, and that's how this came about.
Could I add something? If we have line of sight tower to tower from here to North Bay, wouldn't it be a good idea to mention that to the province, that the cost of equipment would be prohibitive to begin with, and that we already have seamless line of sight where we are now? And if we could stay with that, then we could potentially sign another agreement with North Bay,
If they're permitted to.
if they're permitted to.
If the provincial government, and that's what this letter is asking, that we can do this. And it says we will require a change in equipment, training, staffing changes. Fire department will be moving to a new system, and we respectfully suggest that we stay with what we have for now.
But we could mention that that line of sight is seamless.
Yeah.
So we don't worry about weather, we don't worry about phone lines being down, we don't have to worry about any of that.
Yep. So that can be mentioned in the letter. And then I will take a copy of the letter if I get my phone call, my couple of minutes with the MPP on the weekend. So we'll see. Okay. But in the meantime, we need to send this, and we're trying to get the other departments all to do the
Correct.
same.
We sent the same draft to all municipalities and it's going forward to their boards or council.
Right.
As a united front.
Mhm.
So
So
we can't even guarantee we're gonna be able to get the equipment before December 31st. Cause there's 3 fire departments that will require the same equipment. So that's 3 sets of everything. It takes us 6 to 8 months to get a battery right now.
okay, moving to seconder. Okay. Counselor Kirky. And Counselor Butler. So it's number R 2023-189, moved by Counselor Kirky, seconded by Counselor Butler, that we authorize the mayor to sign a letter requesting reconsideration of Central Ambulance Communications Center boundaries between Nipissing and Parry Sound districts as it affects call taking and alerting services for the Township of Nipissing Fire Department. All in favor? That's the motion. The letter is in here.
Oh, amend the
Yeah.
letter, yeah.
Yeah, not a problem. Now, also, we've been asked, because of the doctor shortage and the difficulties in our area and every other area around here of the doctor shortage, a request for provincial funding to increase enrollment at the Northern Ontario School of Medicine. We talked about that at the last meeting. We have a motion now. And I know we were in support then. If you're still in support, I need a mover and seconder first. Okay, I'm gonna move it around a bit. Counselor Foote and Counselor Yem. This is one I apologize for the length. It's number R 2023-190, moved by Councillor Foot, seconded by Councillor Yem. Whereas the Township of Nipissing recognized the urgent need for physicians in Northern Ontario as it is experiencing a shortage of trained physicians and specialist physicians. And whereas life expectancy of Northern residents is more than 2 years lower than the Ontario average, and mental health and addictions are at a 4 times higher rate, and whereas 1 in 8 Northern residents does not have access to a family doctor, and many must travel long distance to access healthcare services, representing the failure of healthcare in Northern Ontario. And whereas communities in Northern Ontario require access to equitable healthcare, especially underserved rural, Indigenous, and Francophone communities. And whereas in April of 2022, the government announced an unprecedented medical expansion for NOSM University's medical programs, and whereas the current base funding rates for the Northern School of Medicine have not been increased sufficiently to accommodate growth and expansion, therefore be it resolved that the Township of Nipissing strongly requests the provincial government grant NOSM University's request for a permanent increase in annual base funding by $4 million before the end of this fiscal year, so it can continue to deliver on the mandate that the Conservative government initially established in response to the needs of Northern municipalities. Further, be it resolved that a copy of this motion be forwarded to Premier Doug Ford, Minister of Health, and Deputy Premier Sylvia Jones, Minister of Colleges and Universities Jill Dunlop, MPPs Greg Rickford, Vic Fideli, George Peary, Ross Romano, Kevin Holland, AMO, Awesome Phenom, and the Northern Ontario Academic Medicine Association. All in favor? Carried. Thank you, and thank you for bearing with me. Okay.
I wasn't really.
Right. The next one, and I just want to read this. On behalf of council, staff, and residents of the Township of Nipissing, I wish to thank you for your many years of dedicated work volunteering as a representative of the township on the Powassan Union Public Library Board and the Golden Sunshine Municipal Nonprofit Housing Corporation Board of Management. Prior to accepting those roles, we also acknowledge your work on the North Omaguen Planning Board and the Fire Committee on our behalf. Your community spirit and willingness to participate and support the Township of Nipissing is appreciated and recognized. We wish you well and look forward to seeing you at future community events. This, we accept the resignation of Doug Wally. So that is a letter that we will be sending Doug. I know you're aware of it, but I need a mover and a seconder. Okay, Councillor Butler and Councillor Yem. It's number R 2023-191, moved by Councillor Butler, seconded by Councillor Yem, that we accept the resignation of Doug Wally as a Township of Nipissing representative appointed to the Powassan District Union Public Library Board and the Golden Sunshine Municipal Nonprofit Housing Corporation Board of Management, effective immediately. All in favor? And I guess we should wish Doug good health. Yep. Number 11, discussion of draft strategic plan, including public input received. At this point, I know you just received our second public input that we received as of about the middle of the afternoon. It'll be in your package. If you haven't read it yet, I think it was provided tonight, so it wouldn't be in your package, sorry. And I know, as we go through this official plan, and again, we are still in the process of getting public input. But just to point out a couple of things, and I was hoping, really hoping, that somebody else would have jumped on this, but I wanted to point out for our viewing audience that all council, all members of council and staff were in Dunshire at that time. We discussed short-term rentals with many of our other Parry Sound municipalities. Different methods were presented to deal with short-term rentals. Different municipalities are going in diverging directions, and our hope is that there can be a set of standards accepted provincially. Now, the planners there, and those are, of course, our planners. Jamie, planners gave us some excellent information as we look at how to deal with STRs in our communities. And this is going to be shared with the other people in our working group, Chisholm, Calendar, everything else, and Powassan, all of them in our clerks working group as we move forward on this in the official plan. The other thing, just to point out, not in the official plan, health unit gave information on the impending flu season. Within the month, the North Bay Parry Sound District Health Unit will be rolling out flu and COVID vaccines. They said there are 2 vaccines for COVID. They recommended both of them, not one over the other, Moderna or Pfizer, and there will be 1 flu vaccine. They've all been tested in the Southern Hemisphere, so Australia, New Zealand, wherever, with good results this year. And when it is available in our pharmacies, which should be within the month to a month and a half, they'll do flu and COVID at the same time, so it'll be one-stop shop. So that was from the health unit. Internet, I guess this is for the rest of the staff. Infrastructure Ontario was there and was asked there on the request of the municipalities. Luke Barker was the representative. Again, they're hoping for a 2025 rollout, and they're hoping for a 50-10 product. And there are questions about fiber optics versus the anybody else. If I've forgotten, fiber optics versus the bell lines we have now.
Copper,
Yeah, and the copper, right? And they'll have a longer life expectancy over the present bell lines. They allow for continued improvements. So after the line's there, it can take more and more for you and at the other end. And there's more info if you want to go to Ontario Connects. And one of the questions I noticed was, why do we have money in our budget for internet if Bell's going to supply it all by 2025? And his answer was, no, Bell is supplying landlines, but anybody that doesn't have a landline may have to be serviced in a different method, whether it be back to towers or by low-level satellites, right? Thank you. And those costs may not be covered by Bell. So that's why there's still budgeting for something like that. And last, but certainly not least, they talked about blue box transitions. And the gentleman, it was Brett and Associates. And the gentleman, or Barrett. Okay, I thought it was Brett, but it's Barrett and Associates. It's Mike Barrett. And we've given a contact for more clarity. They've explained the PRO, which was Producer Responsibility Organizations. we're scheduled to begin October 20th, 25.
Yeah, 2025 is when we do
2025.
our.
In the meantime, there's a lot of information still out there, as everything is to be completed by the end of 25. But the government has no plan at this time for 2026. So it's really difficult for us to plan when we don't know what the government's going to do as of 2026. So right now, we go with this because the government has said we have to go with it. It's not a choice. And we will,
When we can opt in or opt out, but then we would be financially responsible for our own.
right. So as we look at the strat plan, and I know you've found yours and whatever, all members of council have had numerous discussions with staff about the strat plan. As with all comments on the plan, they have been forwarded, read, and commented on by council. We continue to gather information and comments regarding the strat plan. We will discuss this with staff to further hone this plan before it's presented for final acceptance. So that's why this says draft. And we appreciate all the information that we continue to receive about different policies, different things. We're looking at comments on different areas, and we have looked into these areas, and for example, calendar in the front of there says our future in 20 years. But all they're talking about is what they've accomplished. In generalities in the 20 years, their actual strat plan is 4 years. Okay, and that's all, and estimated whatever, but everything of theirs is 23, 24, and 25. So we've looked at calendars, we've looked at North Bay's. Fortunately, if you look at it, very general. And they're looking at a 10-year, but natural, north and near. That's a priority. Economic prosperity is a priority. Responsible and responsive government is a priority. Affordable, balanced growth. Spirited, safe economy. And again, I'm sure we agree with everything there. And we're looking at something a little more specific. But if any counselors, and I know you have discussed this with staff, if you want to discuss this, or if we open this.
Any comments we'll take in for the next draft?
So for the next draft, if anybody would care to make a comment that we haven't received as yet, we would gladly accept it so we can include it in the next draft. So anybody here, it says on the agenda discussion. So if there's anything you would like to discuss about the strat plan that we haven't already received, please do so. Or if there's anything you'd like to add to offer to the strat plan, we're willing to write it down and take notes. So any comments from anybody? Because we had, like we said, one today that we can't even, I know most of you just got tonight and you had other things on your plate tonight. I was lucky enough to get it this afternoon as the acclaimed mayor. So I've read that already, and we will share that or include that in the strat plan. But any other comments? Yes. I'm sure. sure, come up, as long as these people can hear you as well, that's great.
I think my major comment is around kind of the length and duration, obviously, of this plan. Obviously, at Command Community Center last year, when you all were running an all candidates meeting, you suggested you were in support of the plan, you appreciated the plan. And now we have a plan that 75% of this is going to be superseding that plan. We're taking, in this plan, if you look at your dates, 2023s, 2024s, 73% of the work is slated to happen in that period. So I'm just curious how we change over from a, we're happy with this plan, to basically rewriting it in the next year and not having anything going beyond that and into that. There's one thing listed for 2026. There's a couple things in 2027. So it's really a short-term thought. And I appreciate the comments about North Bay and calendar being generalities. That's what I believe strategic is. Obviously, at council meeting slide tonight, there's debate around certain specific topics that would have been unforeseen at the writing of the 2019 strategic plan. The strategic plan is to guide your decisions at this council meeting. Based on that, and I believe generalities and understandings of what we're trying to accomplish is more important than the very tactical level programs that are listed out in this.
I mean, you say that, but then the next thing I hear is it needs to be measurable. How do you measure generalities? How do you measure prosperity?
And that's where we talked about in my comments about being actionable versus the conceptual, right? The two different levels of things. So obviously, yes, there has to be specifics, and I'm not suggesting that you can't have tactical plans inside of the strategic plan, but I think that what this plan is missing is that overview of where we're trying to get to, that vision. And so tactically, I mean, it's there, it's leveled out. I think, obviously, I pointed out a few in here, kind of how I think it'd be structurally a little bit different to tie those specific elements there, but I think the overarching viewpoints is what gets missed.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the provincial standard for strategic plan, technically, after speaking to the municipal affairs person I speak to, is generally focused around the 4-year council term. And the way that the council term is set up is 2023 is our learning year, 24 and 25 are our action years, 26 is a campaign year. So that's where you see those dates within the strategic plan, which is technically a work plan for this council term. That's why it doesn't go beyond this council term, because other documents are at play within the municipality that guide those things, such as the asset management plan, our capital forecast, 10 years, those items. But you also don't want to impede on the next council term, because they will come in with their own, and that's why the strat plan is changed over with the council term, so that those platforms that those council members run on can be included within the strat plan for those changes, for those unforeseen items. Anything can be edited, amended as we go along when there is an item. Certainly that comes to the council table. This just gives us a starting plan. So what I noticed taking over the position that I have now was that the years didn't line up. So that was my reason for taking it to the council term year, so that we could work within those boundaries. That was my recommendation to council. So that explains the time frame. And then providing working documents. Now, we don't have a lot of studies and working documents to draw on the information from, so we're starting fresh. So it may look like we don't have a lot of that information, and we don't. And we don't have the expertise to make those reports. So that's why it's a starting point. It may not be as detailed as it can be, absolutely, and we're working towards that. But this is where I believe that I've led council to this point with, we need to have those 2 studies, the service delivery study, because we're hearing from the public that they would like to see the different levels of service. We need that, but an outside party needs to do that for us, so that we make sure that it's fair and it's fair. Okay. So that kind of explains where we came from this moment. Okay.
The other thing that I'd like to share with everybody, and I'm sure Chris already knows this, service delivery, people are saying we have to have a third party do it. We understand that. We don't have the expertise. Okay, $30,000 right there. So we got to go outside and hire somebody for $30,000. Taxes just went up 1%. We need an asset management plan.
We have one that
We
needs,
have
we're working
one.
on updating it. with
We are
free.
updating it. We are working with KPMG on that. If we go brand new on that, another 30,000. Human resources, hiring policies, that kind of thing. What do you think that's gonna cost? $30,000 to $40,000. Our road survey, and we had so many complaints. We've gone to Willis,
GM Wills.
EM Wills for the road survey. If you notice different cables and lines across your roads right now, they're just counting, checking, whatever. That survey cost us $45,000, $45,000. So just in the surveys that people are saying we should be doing, your taxes just went up 4%, you know?
What's the outcome of that survey you're doing with the road?
We don't have the outcome yet.
What's it gonna be? What are you expecting?
They will tell us what roads to improve.
It feeds into the asset management plan to show us where we should be focusing our capital budget, on which roads, in what schedule, which ones are beyond where we should be repairing and what their needs are. And they'll also be looking at the average daily traffic counts to tell us if our numbers are correct.
So our own township doesn't have a criteria to prioritize.
We do, and we have been, and we just updating to make sure, because our last road need study was from 2003.
Didn't
Pardon?
Oh, wait, 03.
Oh, three?
It's been a long time.
Oh, 3 or 05. So we want to keep that information updated. It's also a requirement of the asset management plan. So yes, we can do certain things, but we don't have the engineer on staff. We want to make sure that we're getting those numbers accurate.
And if we don't have accurate numbers, we can't apply for government grants because they're gonna say, why do you need this money for this road? We're gonna say, because we think it's in bad shape. And they're gonna say, no, we need an engineering report. So this company is gonna give us engineering reports. If there's a blind corner, there's too much traffic on a single lane road in some areas, they're gonna point that out. And then again, with the study will come more expense because we will have to make those improvements, because if not, it's telling us to do that. And if we ignore it, that's not good. So that's why we have to go outside and get these different reports and whatever. So, and again, we could also have paid for a strategic plan, somebody to do that for us as well. But I'm just looking here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5%. I'm not happy with taxes the way they are now. And if I look at 5% for studies, and then what if we have an issue? We had an issue with our trailer bylaw that we tried to put forth for everybody in the township last year. That again went to the Ontario Land Tribunal and cost us $42,000. So these are the hard facts we have to look at. And I know that a lot of the people that I deal with, I look at my family who say taxes better not go up, you know? So these are the constraints that we have, and any member of council that wants to chime in, please do so, because I know you're concerned about taxation rates and everything as well.
Well, I know that we try, we're very fortunate so far in this township that our taxation rate is comparable to the LSPs, local service boards. And it's lower than the other municipalities around us. You know, we can deliver more services, but those services are going to cost more no matter what you do. And we can't afford a full-time engineer.
Getting back to the engineering roads, you need an engineer to tell you to do road that has 65,000 vehicles going through it in 119 days. You need an engineer to tell you that road needs a certain degree of construction.
It's not just for that road, it's for all roads.
Well, I'm gonna talk about that road.
Yeah, but how did you get those numbers? And So you did the survey.
On the sign, they had a sign up.
I know they had the survey, it's how we quantify it. You have to have someone do
They did it.
it. Yeah, that's what I mean, that costs money.
We bought those 2 signs, but we only have the 2 signs, so it would take us an awful long time to do all of our roads. And we wouldn't meet the requirements of the asset management plan for the engineered numbers.
And the
We're doing
thing
best
is,
that we can with those.
Okay, but
and we have to do all the roads.
you just need an engineer to tell you to redo that LSAT boundary.
That was always in the plan, and we're working with our neighbors
Okay.
to get to that state. Yes.
We know that.
I hope so.
We know that. And you have been gracious enough to point it out to us. But I think you also know by listening tonight, the financial restraints. If I ask these people here, if they would like their taxes to up 8% to cover the entire, are paying the entire section of the Alsace Road with no money from Powassan, I don't know, how do you feel about it?
No.
I'm more worried about the dump having closed. I'm sorry.
Working towards that.
Yeah,
It's coming.
right, and then, so we know there's gonna be an increase in taxes related to how we dispose of our waste materials. And our roads, we have to drive on them, so there's gonna be a lot, so I think it's, you guys are doing a great job at trying to figure out how to balance it all.
Thank you. It is a balancing act and the unfortunate thing, Rod, and I apologize for this, but we can't make everybody happy. You know,
Let's go back to why it was tore up.
we're not going back. It's torn up. It was done. 2 councils agreed on it. And unfortunately, and we have reached out, we have,
Cost you, since you tore it up to maintain it, gravel and calcium.
It's a lot cheaper than coal patching every week.
So the budgeted figure for the LSS maintenance, for the boundary road maintenance was, as of today, we have spent 52,000.
72.5.
That's the budgeted amount. You asked me how much we've spent to date.
so 52,000, and this is, if you're not aware, this is a road. Okay. Okay, so, and unfortunately, there are other roads in other areas that also need work, and again, you have to work for the general good of the entire township. I'd love to do that. I would love to, but until we get some help, we've discussed it, and we've gone to Powassan, and we've sent them another, after the most recent whatever discussion, we've sent them another request with another number of options. And as yet, they can't speak at this time.
They received that correspondence at their September meeting.
So that was September, and they said they can't speak until they start looking at their budget. So when we look at asset management and everything like that, it's, you know, and we've talked, and there's, as far as any other action that we could take, it would be counterproductive to both townships. So that's where we stand. We keep going to them and keep asking, and hopefully they're gonna have, they may have had a better year budget-wise. They sold a lot of property. Tax increase, so maybe they're gonna have more money this year. Let's hope, but that's all that's coming from us at this time. Any other questions, though, on strategic plan? Okay, I guess then we had a discussion.
We received your comments, and I understand the numbering and the way that you're kind of gonna review that again and see if we can work some of that in. So thank you for that input.
And I don't know about the rest of the council, but thank you for catching me up, Rod, and I anticipate on being here another 3 years. And then if I die after that, you know, whatever, but I just wanted to. Yeah, I listened to the statement too that some of your committee made when they left that night, but I try not to dwell on that either, okay? So, and so I can't speak for the rest of council, but I'm here for the duration and now we will move on if we have no more discussion on that. Because when it comes to roads, I most certainly have no idea when they're going to be done, but I have hope, great hopes. So we'll move on to correspondence. We have 5 items, North Bay District Health Unit, that's just their agenda for the meeting that they had September 27th. We haven't received anything. The second one may have been of interest, resolution from the town of Midland regarding catch and release. I'm an advocate of catch and release for fishing, not so when it comes to criminals. So consider that, whether or not we want to support that. And if we do so, get to Chris within the week and we can look at putting that on as something, because their comment is repeated arrests of the same offenders, which in turn is impacting the morale of police and ultimately law-abiding citizens who are paying the often significant financial and emotional toll of this broken system. So if that's something that we want to look at, we'll put
I
it
think
on.
we should support it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, that'll be in the resolution for the next meeting. The next one is information item, just AMO welcomes new ministers. It's mainly about building transit stations, so it doesn't have a lot to do with us. And the provincial government has welcomed a few new members, certain ministers lately. So it's just a policy update. The next is minutes of the Golden Sunshine Municipal Nonprofit Housing Corporation Board of Directors. That was held in August 22nd. I gave you that report in September. And then last but not least, the District of Parry Sound Social Services Administration Board Chief Administrative Officer's report. And that goes through everything from DSAB, and they were at our meeting on Friday if you had any other questions, but everything from childcare to Esprit Place to early on family and child programs. So it was all there, and it's just the report for September and their mission statement. Other than that, any comments or questions on correspondence? Seeing none, do I have a motion? And I've already put it away. Okay, a mover and a seconder. Okay. Yeah, you two are right on tonight. It's just because I can't see him, Councilor Yam. Butler and Kirky. It's number R 2023-192. Moved by Councilor Butler, seconded by Councilor Kirky, that we accept the correspondence as presented. All in favor? Carried. Next, statements of accounts. I'll get a mover and seconder and then ask if there are any questions. Mover and seconder, Councilor Yam and Councilor Foot. Thank you. I know you've looked over these. Are there any comments, questions? Because the entire staff is here tonight.
Winter maintenance materials.
Sand.
Okay,
Relatively.
okay.
Anything else?
Developer deposits.
Yes. So for consent applications, minor variance applications, the applicants are required to provide us with a deposit. So any of our bills that go through for legal or planning are placed there.
Oh, okay.
So that is a deposit that's been given to the municipality, so payable, but we haven't paid it up.
Right.
That's why I highlighted it.
So that will go,
We have the money on deposit, so we're using their deposit money.
right, okay. Got it.
Instead of the taxpayers' money. Of course, they'll be taxpayers someday. Okay, any other comments on statement? Okay, it's number R 2023-193, moved by Councillor Yem, seconded by Councillor Foot. A statement of accounts dated September 28th, 2023, totaling $176,568.77 be approved. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, the confirming bylaw, this is what I mentioned earlier. Everything that we've discussed, everything in the minutes is confirmed by this bylaw, so we'll move in the seconder. Okay, Councillor Foot. Councillor Butler. It's number R 2023-194, moved by Councillor Foot, seconded by Councillor Butler, that we pass bylaw number 2023-41, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held on October 3rd, 2023, read the first, second, and third time, and passed its third day of October 2023. All in favor? Carried. And last but not least, moving to seconder for Councillor Yam and Councillor Kirky. Number R 2023-195, moved by Councillor Yam, seconded by Councillor Kirky, that the meeting be adjourned at 8:02. According to the clock on the wall, PM. The next regular meeting to be held October 17th, 2023. All in favor? Carried. Thank you all tonight. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for your patience.